Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year, right? We're back to cooking in 2023. So welcome to our virtual potluck. I'm Diana Lennon, Head of Adult Services at the Ossining Library. And I would like to introduce you, if you don't know already, Ashley Covelli of Big Flavors from Tiny Kitchen. We're going to make some delicious stuff tonight. And I think as you go along, you'll tell people about we have another session on February 21st, March 21st, and what we're going to cook and everything, and that people can register on our calendar at austinlibrary.org. So Ashley, take it away.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to spotlight. Hi, everybody. I'm going to spotlight this view and this one. So overhead view of my cutting board. If you're watching live, if you're on the replay, I'm sorry. You have to come live to see that one. It only records the one main one, but thank you for joining. If you haven't cooked with me before, just know that my classes are very laid back. You're welcome, encouraged to unmute, ask questions, tell me to slow down, tell me to, whatever you need. It's very laid back. I want you to feel comfortable in the kitchen. So if I'm moving too fast, definitely slow me down. And if I'm just getting my shrimp out of the fridge. If you're shy about being on camera, that's fine. You can leave it off. You can also type in the chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye on that. So tonight we're making a seafood pasta. I have a version of this on my website that's got shrimp and scallops. We're gonna do just shrimp today. And it's a super easy recipe. And then alongside we'll make some garlic parmesan bread and some roasted green beans. I've certainly made just the pasta before and it comes together really quickly. I don't know, something about pasta and garlic bread for me is where it's at, like carbs with my carbs. But if you're cooking along with me, you can put a rack on the top level of your oven and preheat to 425. And then, so we're going to roast the green beans in there. And then we're also going to, if you want to broil your garlic bread after the beans are done, you can broil your garlic bread. If you'd rather pan fry it, you can do it that way too. We've got options, you don't have to worry. We're going to fill a big pasta pot with water. It's cold water. And I like linguine with this, but spaghetti, any long type of pasta really works nicely with it. If all you have at home is penne or something, that's totally fine. Don't not make it because you don't think you have the right type of pasta. So let's see. I'll show you too. You can use any type of shrimp that you like whatever size. I got a pound of large shrimp. And I just wanted to show you that when you buy shrimp off, I buy mine still frozen. Oftentimes it's been previously frozen. So if you're going to use it that day, that's fine. But buying it frozen and thawing it when you need it is actually oftentimes a lot fresher than if you were to buy it like fresh at the counter at the whatever your grocery store is. If you're local, I will say that the Chico is really good with their seafood is really nice if you want something ready that day over in Millwood. I'm going to put this pot of water over high heat and we'll wait until once it's boiling, then we'll add the salt to the pasta water. So the shrimp, I'll show you real quick. Anytime you can buy something closer to its whole original state, it'll usually be less expensive than if you buy it prepared. So I personally don't buy shrimp already peeled. I buy them split and deveined. So that means I'll show it over here too. The shrimp still has the shell and the tail on, but they've split it down the middle and taken out the vein that's in there. So I thawed this and I peeled them earlier, so you don't have to watch me peel a pound of shrimp, but all you have to do is kind of peel back this shell and then you can pull it off. You just pinch by the tail and that'll usually free the meat out. So that's all you have to do to peel them once they're thawed. And I like to thaw them just, if you think about it the day before, you can put it in the fridge from the freezer the night before. Otherwise, a lot of times I'll put them in a bowl with cold water and that'll help them thaw a little faster. So it's really like if you eat shrimp, the right thing in there. If you eat shrimp, it's a nice protein to have on hand at home just because it's like super versatile. It can take on whatever flavor you add to your dish. And they're really easy to work with and they cook really fast. So you could do the same dish with different types of seafood or even like cooked chicken or something. It'll take a little longer to cook something like chicken all the way through. So I'm just going to set this aside. I just wanted to show you what they looked like. All right, we'll see you next time, Diana. So we've got that. I think what we're going to do is go ahead and get our green beans ready to go in the oven because the pasta stuff cooks up pretty quickly. So let's see. I called for a pound of green beans. They had 12-ounce bags. That's less than a pound, but it's fine for me. So I'm just going to rinse these off. It says they're trimmed and washed. Well, maybe they're all right. With salad greens, it's nice. It's good to still wash them if you can. A lot of times there's some sediment in there. But for the green beans, it says they're trimmed, which is this, but some of them they might still have this little stem end on. So I'm just going to trim that. You can snap it with your fingers, just like snap it off or trim it with a knife. And if you have a whole bunch of them that have the stems on, you can just kind of, that might've been the only one with a stem, but you can just kind of like line up a little row of them on your cutting board and just cut off the ends all at once and then throw them onto your baking sheet. So these, just salt and pepper and some lemon is perfectly fine. If you happen to have any grill seasoning in your pantry, and I'll put in a link if you ever want to make homemade grill seasoning. That's what I use. It's like just a couple ingredients, but it's nice to give your recipes just like a plain roasted vegetable or chicken or whatever, just like a little extra flair. It's got let's say like garlic powder and some paprika and salt and pepper. So feel free, if you have like a flavored season blend that you like in your pantry, you can use that. Just note if it has salt in it or not, because you definitely want to have some salt in here, unless you're on a low sodium diet, and then ignore that. So to the green beans, I'm just going to drizzle over about a tablespoon of olive oil. Does not have to be perfect. You don't have to measure it. If you're doing kosher salt and black pepper, I would do about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then just like a couple grinds of black pepper. Since my grill seasoning has everything in there, I'm just going to sprinkle some on. I'm not going to be too, somebody recently, I saw them say, don't be too Martha about it. Like, don't be a perfectionist about it, which I thought was pretty funny. But so maybe like 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon on there. And then you can use tongs or whatever, but hands work just as well. And it's just to try to get the seasoning on the oil kind of on everything, and then try to spread it out into a single layer if you can. Again, don't stress out too much about it. It'll be fine. I happen to like these when they get like kind of blistery in the oven. I think that adds a nice amount of flavor to it. All right, so I'm just gonna set this aside until the oven is preheated, which I have this like small oven up top and then a full size one down there. So this one often heats up a little faster, which is nice. And I'll set timers. And if you have an ALEXA in your house, just know that I'll set yours off in a minute when I go to tell her to set a timer. It's kind of funny. I do a private class with somebody and I'll tell mine to set like a green bean timer, and then whenever my private client puts hers in the oven, I'll set a timer and I'll name it Maureen's green bean timer. So it's kind of funny. It works out. Very handy tool being able to set multiple timers in the kitchen. All right, our shrimp is peeled. The water is working on boiling. We could go ahead and mince some garlic. This will be for the shrimp. That way it's like ready and off to the side. So I'm gonna do 4, I think I do 4 cloves. Yeah, and if they're like kind of little wimpy cloves and you like garlic, feel free to add another one in there. 2. I married into an Italian family, so I'm gonna throw an extra one in there. We used to call it the Italian multiplier, like whatever recipe calls for, like maybe double it garlic wise, or just add an extra one. Get all those. I'm just smashing to get the paper loosened, and then you can peel it off easily. If you go through a ton of garlic, they do sell like tubs of pre-peeled garlic. It looks good. I haven't bothered to use that ever. I usually get the sleeve that's got like 5 whole heads of garlic, and then when I get down to that last one, then I buy another sleeve. So I'm just peeling the paper off, and then any of them that have like a really big kind of like stem end there, root end, I'll just trim that off and then mince these. If you, I've done this in some of my classes before, but if you ever have a bunch of garlic that you need to peel and mince quickly, after it's peeled, if you have a food processor, you turn the motor on, let it spin, and drop the cloves through the feed chute, and it minces them like really quickly, pretty evenly, and it saves a ton of time. So just a little something to keep in mind if you're ever like chimichurri. I do that when I make chimichurri, or anytime I just, for whatever reason, need a lot of garlic. So next month is February is National Heart Month. So we're gonna do 2 recipes that can be heart healthy. Letting somebody in. We're doing a curried pumpkins. Is that? Wait, get this right. Curried pumpkin soup and a massaged kale salad. And for that month, if you are concerned about heart health, you can start without any salt and then taste and see if it needs some, and then just add half of the amount that the recipe calls for. I was talking with one of my friends who's a registered dietitian, and she was mentioning like the different things that are really good for heart health. So that'll be exciting. So that's the next one with the Ossining Library. And then tomorrow, same time, 6 o'clock Eastern, I have a class with the Rye Free Reading Room, and we're doing chili. You can make it spicy if you like. I'll show you how to make it spicy or mild. And you can use your favorite ground protein. So you can use beef, turkey. I'm going to use turkey. You can use a vegan ground meat substitute like Beyond Meat. Works really nicely in it. And then some corn muffins while it's simmering to go alongside. All right, green beans heading into the oven. And I'm going to start them for like 12 minutes, and then we'll check on them. Alexa, set a bean timer for 12 minutes. We've got the garlic ready for the pasta when we start doing the shrimp. I'm going to rinse off this lemon and zest it before we cut it open. It's always easier to zest pre-cutting it. If you've ever tried to like zest a nub of a lemon, it's super difficult. Hi, Ola, nice to see you. So I'm just gonna, I have a microplane, and I'm just gonna zest this kind of off to the side. Good, how are you? So we're just gonna do this and let it sit off to the side, because we'll use this when our beans are out of the oven. We will toss them with the lemon zest. It just kind of brightens them up, and it makes it a little different than just a plain roasted green bean without much effort, especially if you tend to keep lemons in your house already. It's super helpful. So just gonna scoot that off to the side. Check this water and see how it's doing. Almost. It's almost there. So while it's almost there, we'll get the parsley. If you're making the pasta and the garlic bread, you could do 4 tablespoons of minced parsley. You can also use dried if you're just doing the garlic bread, if you're not doing the pasta. I use dried parsley in that all the time. Since I have a bunch I'm just going to go ahead and use fresh. So we'll just take this and kind of roughly chop it first, and then you can go back over it to get it a little smaller there. If anybody, we have our themes picked through March, but if anybody ever has any requests for types of things that you'd like to cook, we usually try to think of some sort of theme, but you know, something seasonally appropriate sometimes, like, but we're not strict to it, but we're always open to feedback and requests. And we got some really interesting ones last year. Somebody requested grains, I think. Somebody requested salads, eggs. And those are themes that are kind of infinitely doable. You can kind of do many things with that, with those type of themes. All right, my pasta water is just about to a boil. And what you want to see is like a big, lots of bubbles coming up, not just a few. So if it's just starting, give it another minute or two. And then I'm going to add to the pasta water. This seems crazy. It seems like a lot. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of kosher salt into the water. It's not all going into the pasta. You can use 1. You can use a big pinch if you want, but Italian husband, he's like, that's the perfect amount. And honestly, when you taste that pasta plain with that much salt in the pasta water, it's so good. Like I could just eat it plain. So does a good job of flavoring it. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to put a large, I have nonstick skillet over medium high heat, and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. Joanna, am I going at an okay speed? I know you're cooking along.
Yep, I'm keeping up. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Sometimes I'm like, am I just speaking in one long run-on sentence, or am I doing good?
No,
right.
perfect pace.
Okay. So 2 tablespoons of olive oil heating in a big pan. My water is boiling and salted. So look at whatever pasta you have, look at the time listed on there for al dente. So that means it'll still have a little bit of chewiness to it. Mine says 9 minutes to al dente, or 11, up to 11, or until desired tenderness. So I'll check it at 9 and test it and see if I feel like it's cooked right. And you don't need to break them in half. You can just put it into the pot and use either some tongs or one of those little pasta forks to kind of help nudge it down into there. And what did I say, 9 minutes? So I'm just submerging it down into the water. And once it's submerged, then I'll set my timer. I was actually looking, I have one of those pasta fork kind of spoons that's got the teeth like a fork, and it's not metal, and I kind of want to get a metal one. And I was at the mall yesterday and I saw one. I was like, oh, let me get this. It was $40, so I did not get it. But one day. Alexa, set a pasta timer for 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
And if you see that once your pasta is submerged, if it starts to boil a little too much, you can turn the heat down a little. So like mine goes up to 10. So I've just turned it down to like 8. So like a medium high, so that it doesn't boil over on you. All right, let's see. What should we do next? This is really not, this one's not too tricky. So let's see. We've got the 2 tablespoons of olive oil in our skillet. We're gonna add the shrimp. So you've got your pound of shrimp. I'm gonna put this in the skillet, and it should only take, depending on the size of your shrimp, like 2 to 4 minutes for them to cook through. They'll curl and they'll be pink on both sides. And I'm gonna get a plate on the side to, once they're cooked, to remove them from the pan so they don't overcook while we make the sauce. So I'm just gonna scoop these down into here. And oh, I didn't preheat my skillet. That's hilarious. All right, so I'm gonna put it on medium high heat, like I said I did, but didn't. But I'll show you if anybody's interested. If you're watching live, I'll show you with my overhead. This is like, that pasta water is boiling. Pretty. These are gray. They will be pink once they're cooked. All right. So
How do
mine will take a
we
couple
see
more
that?
minutes.
How do we see that?
Are you, so you should be able
I'm not
to
on the
see.
computer, I'm on my phone. If I was on the computer, it's probably better.
Gotcha. So I have two screens. I have them spotlighted. So you should be able to see. I haven't done it from a phone. Are you in landscape mode or vertical?
Yeah. Landscape.
I don't know if maybe on where the view setting is, because I have my front camera and my overhead.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry. Just kidding. I know on the computer I could see it better, but
Yeah, I've never done a Zoom. I may have like once done a Zoom from my phone. It's like so tiny. It's difficult to see things, but if there's anything that you need me to show you like up on this main camera, let me know, and I'm happy to do that. Let me get a dish for my shrimp for when they come out. So you can just stir the pasta occasionally. If you have tongs, you can use those while it's cooking. And before we drain it, we're going to take out some pasta water. That'll help thicken the sauce that we're making to go with it. All right, so after that, we're going to put the garlic in. Lemon juice. So I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So that's usually about half of a lemon, but it just kind of depends on how ripe your lemon is, how juicy it is. But I've got these little beakers that have the measurements on here, so I'm going to measure mine into here. I took my juicer out. If you don't have to use a juicer, but if you have one, I used to think you put it in this way because it mimics the shape of the juicer, but you actually put it in this way so that the piece that you squeeze down compresses all that juice and it really squeezes it really nicely. So I've got this lemon, gave me almost 2 tablespoons from half. So I'm gonna take like another quarter of it.
I bought one, by the way, Ashley.
Did you?
I use it quite often. Yeah, thank you. I didn't realize I never had heard it or seen it before. So thank you.
I'm glad it came in handy. And yeah, we my son likes he likes making like lemonade with it. Like they come in handy very often. And you can keep the extra lemon if you want. You can cut it into little wedges for if people want to squeeze a little over the top of anything after. I'm gonna stir my shrimp. I'll show you. They still look pretty gray on top, but as you start flipping them, you can start to see they're turning pink underneath. So we're just gonna let them keep going until they turn fully pink. You don't want to see any of that like translucent gray or white anymore. And some shrimp will turn brighter pinks than others. I think these ones I got are tiger shrimp, but they'll look very different than they do in their raw state. So we've got the lemon juices ready to go. The other ingredient for the pasta, the other main ingredient is capers, and I love capers, so I buy these giant jars at the wholesale club. And the brine that's in here is great for seasoning things. Like if you ever have something that just needs a little extra salt, it's a great seasoning. So you don't have to use it, but it's just like a nice option to have. And I get nonpareil, they're the little guys, and they're brined. They also sell caper berries, which are huge. They're like this big and they have a big stem. And often they sell them also packed in salt, which is a totally different type of thing, and it's not something I've cooked with. I've seen those like kind of garnishing salads before, but it's not something that I've really used. So you can see it's taking mine a little longer because I forgot to turn my skillet on, but they are coming along. So and if you see one that you see some gray on top, you can try to flip it over to get the contact on that other side to help. All right. So The next thing that we'll get going while this is all working is garlic Parmesan. If you want, you don't have to add the Parmesan, but a garlic Parmesan butter for garlic bread. So I've got a stick of unsalted butter. You can use salted, that's fine. You just might not want to add salt later to it, but I'll add a stick. So it's 8 tablespoons of butter. And it's often just to make it easier to like mix the spices into. If you forgot to soften yours, you can totally melt it in the microwave. That's fine.
Your bean timer is done.
Alexa, stop. So let's look at these beans and I'll show you what mine look like. So they're starting to char a little bit. I'm probably going to leave them for another minute or two. Alexa, set a bean timer for 1 minute. I think 12 minutes. Alexa, subtract 11 minutes from my bean timer. Okay. Okay, well, Alexa's not listening today. Hang on, I need to get my fan going here. All right, got lots of things steaming in here. So the garlic butter, I like a pretty good amount of garlic powder in mine. You can feel free to start a little less if you're not as big of a garlic fan, but I feel like garlic bread is like, you're good to go a little heavy on the garlic. For 1 stick of butter, I'm going to use a teaspoon of garlic powder. Right on top here. And then I noticed that my shrimp are looking good. So let me show you. They're all nice and pink. So I'm going to take these out onto a plate. They're pink and they're curled. So I'm going to take those, transfer them to a plate, just so they don't overcook while we get the other stuff going. They're kind of like bouncy when they get cooked like this. And they sell lots of different sizes. And if you ever see a number on the shrimp, that's how many shrimp of that size is typical per pound.
Your pasta timer is done.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. She is bossy sometimes. Okay. Like that. So I've got a plate full of shrimp that are all cooked in pink, and I'm just going to set them aside. I'm going to take those beans out of the oven, and then I'm going to taste the pasta to test for how chewy it is, to see if it's cooked enough. So there are our beans. I'm going to set those down for a moment. Let her in. Okay, so let's grab a piece of pasta. And see if it feels cooked to our likings. I find it's easier to get it with tongs than like a fork or something. I'll often let it sit on my cutting board for a second to not let it be so hot. Hi, Chris. Yeah, that's good. And it should be nice and salty from what we added to the cooking liquid. Before you drain it, if you have a glass measuring cup, get a cup of pasta water in here and just keep that on the side. It doesn't have to be exactly a cup. I just kind of fill it so that I have it at the ready, because you can't, once it's drained out, you can't get it back. And it's not the end of the world if you accidentally drain it, it's fine. Get another pot holder here. And strain this into the sink and turn the heat off. Mine's got a little lid that's got holes in it. If you have just a colander or whatever to strain your pasta, that works too. And if your pasta is going to be like, we don't have our sauce fully ready yet, so after I drain it, I'm just going to toss a little bit of olive oil in there to help the noodles not stick to each other. So get as much of the water out as you can.
Ashley, hi,
Yes.
it's Chris. When you
Hi.
asked how I was, I actually did answer you, but of course you couldn't hear me because I was muted.
Not a problem. We've all been there. So I'm just drizzling a little olive oil in there and then just into the cooked pasta. Oh, and you know what? I think my recipe, I actually only called for half a pound. So what I'll do is I'll only use half of this in my my shrimp later. It's been one of those weeks, you know, but extra pasta is not a problem in my house. So let's see. I'm going to, what should I do first? Okay, I've got that burner off. Let's let that sit for a second. Let's get our garlic butter together. I know everything's kind of getting ready at the same time. So let's get the garlic butter ready.
Yes, what is the trick to that? Getting everything to be ready
Well,
at the same time?
part of it is not talking the entire time, which is what I mean, that's the whole point of these is I gotta talk the entire time, but
Right.
yeah. Well, and I was trying to for this, I wanted to kind of multitask with, I'm gonna use the same baking sheet for my garlic bread. So
Okay.
I wanted to get the beans in so that the oven will be freed to then broil the garlic bread later. But
Got
yeah.
Okay.
So garlic Parmesan butter, if you enjoy Parmesan, which I do, gonna add some fresh grated Parmesan into the mix here. About a quarter cup, which is 4 tablespoons. You don't have to be exact with it. So we've got a stick of butter, a teaspoon of garlic powder, grating in some Parmesan. And the shrimp is gonna go back in the skillet once our garlic and caper butter and all that is together. So it'll heat back through. So you don't have to worry about that too much. Okay, so we've got Parmesan in there. I used unsalted butter, so I'm gonna use half a teaspoon of kosher salt. If yours was already salted, you could leave that out. You could always see how it tastes if you think you need some salt, or you could add a quarter teaspoon, but you shouldn't need as much if it's already salted. And then you can either use 2 teaspoons of dried parsley, or I'm gonna use 2 tablespoons of this fresh. The usually dried herbs, the flavor is more concentrated, so you don't need as much. I'm just gonna mush that all together. So just kind of mixing it till it combines. And you can make this garlic butter. If you have extra, it freezes great. You could freeze it. You could also use it if I have some extra, I might on my extra noodles for lunch one day, just heat up the noodles and melt some of this butter or garlic butter down onto them. It'll be really nice. Lots of stuff you can do with that. If you make savory toast, it's nice spread on there too. Okay, so I'm gonna say, let's do a plate for the green beans. I'm gonna put the green beans on a plate, and then I'm going to toss the lemon zest we took off of our lemon. I'm gonna just toss that in with them. And one thing that I do sometimes if I'm trying to keep something warm that isn't, that I'm not gonna serve right away, if you have a microwave, I'm not gonna microwave it, but I'm gonna put this in the microwave and close the door. It just kind of contains the heat. So I just put the lemon zest on top and then just toss it a little. And remember, this either has the grill seasoning or salt and pepper on it already. And then if you want, you can do a little squeeze of lemon juice on top also. And usually when I serve this, I'll just throw a couple lemon wedges on the platter. And then if people want to add more, they can. So I'm just going to stick this in the microwave. This is just a little cover. Just going to put there and let it hang out while we get the pasta going. So let's see. We're going to put the skillet on medium heat and add 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So this time I will turn the skillet on, which is always good. I'm gonna cut off 2 tablespoons. There's something about the mix of like adding a little butter in with this pasta that just makes it, it's like a little bit creamy, but not excessively so, in my opinion. And again, this is great with, if you were gonna do this with shrimp and scallops, like the way I have it on my website, you cook one of the proteins first, set it aside, cook the other one. That way you're not overcooking one and undercooking the other. It can take a little bit of juggling. So it's like, let's go easy on this one. When that's melted, we're gonna add the garlic and just kind of mix it around. It should only take like a minute or two. And then we will add our other ingredients. While the butter is melting, you can use any kind of bread that you like. I've done this on hot dog buns before and it's delicious. So it doesn't have to be like bougie bread. We got a baguette we went to Wegmans yesterday. If you're local and you haven't been to the Wegmans over in Harrison, it's great. They have so much good stuff. So I'm just going to cut this. Let's see. I want to cut it. You can cut it into slices if you'd like, but I kind of like having a big long piece. So I'm going to turn it upright so it's nice and stable, and using a serrated knife. So you use a sawing motion, it'll help not squish your bread. I'm going to go down the center. I'm going to see how much garlic butter, like how much it'll cover of my bread. And you can leave the ends on, you don't have to cut those off. I like this on brioche. My son thinks it's a little too sweet. I like it because it's nice and soft. I'm just going to put these on that baking sheet. My butter is melted, so I'm going to add my garlic. Add the garlic into the pan with the butter, and it should start, it's same pan that we cooked the shrimp in. I didn't clean it out or anything. Just mixing it around, and it'll you can kind of scrape a little bit to get any brown bits off. So like the heating of the butter and the scraping will kind of help that all come up. And it should smell garlicky pretty much as soon as you put that in there. So like about a minute or two. And then I'm gonna switch my oven to, it was on bake, but now I'm gonna put it on broil. If you have an electric oven like I do, once you're using the broiler, it's an element right up top. You need to leave your door cracked open like that, so that the element doesn't kick off and on and off and on, because it'll think it's hot enough. If you have a gas stove, an oven, you can leave the door closed. Alexa, stop. I feel like that was super fast. Hopefully that made sense. I'm just preheating the broiler for the garlic bread, and it's going right on the same sheet pan that I did the beans on. So garlic is smelling good. I'm only over medium heat. We will add lemon juice. So we've got that 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. White wine or vermouth is optional. You could just put in a little water. Well, we're gonna put in pasta water later, so you don't really have to. It does add a nice touch. You could use chicken stock if you had a little of that hanging out, but I'm putting both of those in there, kind of scraping again. And I'm gonna add the rest of this parsley. So we used half of it in the garlic butter. We're gonna put the other half in here, and a quarter cup of capers. And when you're getting them to measure, you don't need to include the brine, but you don't need to like stress out over draining it too much. It's just salty, so you want to try to kind of, I usually I get a scoop and I kind of just tilt it like that against the end to get any excess caper juice out. So quarter cup, which is 4 tablespoons. And you can go, honestly, me and my son really like capers. We usually add a little bit more. But you can always add more. So if you're a little iffy on if you want it to be quite this salty, maybe start with half, and then you can always add more later. So this stuff is just kind of mixing around, making a really light amount of sauce right now, because we'll add the pasta water later. Just letting that heat up. It's kind of like a piccata, a little bit. So I'm gonna let that sit for like a minute or two while we put the garlic butter on our garlic bread. There's no exact amount. It depends on the size of your bread. You just want to kind of do a layer, like an even-ish layer on each piece. And this stuff, like I said, if you're going to freeze it, I like to, when I do any type of flavored butters like this, if you wrap it in parchment paper first, kind of like make a little log of it, squish out the extra air, wrap it in parchment paper before you put it in plastic or anything. That tends to help keep it from getting freezer burnt. All right, so I did mention earlier, you can broil this, or you can, that just cooks it really fast. You can also sear it in a pan. You would just you'd preheat your skillet to, let's see, what do I actually recommend here? Medium heat. Preheat the skillet first and then put it buttered side down until it's brown. It should just take like 2 or 3 minutes. This is just an easy way to kind of do a large amount. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit more of this one, because I've got enough butter left, and I know my family tends to very much enjoy the garlic bread. So I'm gonna cut this in half, slather it with butter, and then in the broiler, it should only take like 3 to 5 minutes. It's always good to err on the side of check it early so it doesn't burn. And if you're broiling it and you're checking on it and it looks like one side of your pan is browning a lot faster than the other, what you can do is, if you put it in this way, and when you take it out to check, these pieces are really brown and these ones aren't, you can flip it around this way and then put it in, and that'll help kind of even it out. So this is going in the broiler. Alexa, set a timer for 3 minutes. All right, just want to make sure. I think that's good on that. We just have to add our drained pasta. So here's the skillet with the capers and lemons. We're going to add our ½ pound of spaghetti or linguine, fettuccine, whatever you're using. Where are my tongs? Okay, there. It's a tiny kitchen. They don't have much place to go, but I'm going to take about half of this. Again, I'm not being exact. You can always add a little bit extra pasta water if you need a little bit more. I'm going to go about half of this pasta. I'm gonna add enough of this cooking liquid to help it kind of coat the pasta. And usually if you kind of toss it around with the tongs, it's easier when it's on the stovetop, but you just kind of toss it around and you'll feel it sliding around and just see if it looks kind of saucy. This isn't like a very thick gravy type of sauce or anything, but so that'll coat. Then we're gonna throw the shrimp back in. And I'm just gonna put it to let it heat for like a minute or two, just to kind of bring all the flavors together. Right back on the stove, top over medium. I'm just peeking at my garlic bread just to make sure it doesn't look too brown. I do like it a little extra toasty though. And if the pasta looks a little dry, add a little bit more of your pasta liquid. I usually, once it's kind of come together, I'll taste a piece of the pasta, and if it feels like it's missing something, it's usually either salt or lemon. So for salt, instead of actual salt, I'll just throw in a little bit of caper brine, or another squeeze of lemon juice. So you can see mine are, these ones are getting pretty brown around the edges, but these ones aren't, so I'm gonna flip it around. And I think that is it. You can, if you have extra parsley that you want to garnish on top, you can, but I'll do a plate of this. Let's bring this over here and test. Our next class is February. It's also a Tuesday, February 21st. Making the curried pumpkin soup and a massaged kale salad that's got cranberries and pepitas, which are pumpkin seeds. And just test this.
Could you please repeat the date on
Alexa,
that,
stop.
Ashley?
Yeah, it's Alexa, stop. Chris is trying to ask for the date and time. Come on. Tuesday and February and March are the same day because the months line up that way, the 21st. So we're doing curried pumpkin soup and a massaged kale salad. One ingredient that's in the kale salad that you might not be familiar with is nutritional yeast, which sounds crazy. It sounds like a weird ingredient, but it's kind of nutty a little bit. Like it's kind of a good sub for Parmesan in things. If you have like a vegan or somebody who doesn't do dairy, it's a good, not in the same exact ratio because it's a pretty concentrated flavor, but it's these little like flakes of like salty, nutty. It's really good on popcorn. So this is one of the things in the kale salad. You can find this. You can't find it everywhere. You can definitely order it online. A lot of like health food stores carry it. It's got a lot of really good nutritional value in there. So this pasta, it's looking a little bit dry. So I'm just gonna throw in a little bit more of that pasta water, and it's nice and hot. So that's good, but pop some of this on the plate. And also, you know, it's super easy to just add more protein in here if you want to serve more people. Again, if you use the whole pound of pasta, you'd have more. Pretty simple to scale if you want. The pasta I wouldn't recommend freezing. If you had leftovers, it's not really, I don't think the texture holds up too well, but we've got that. We've got some of our green beans. My son, actually, he's 11. He loves these green beans. So I'm like, you know, whatever I can do to keep him eating more veggies is a good thing. And then I'll put one of the pieces of garlic bread on here. Woo! Or I'll drop it and I'll get another one. There we go. So we've got pasta and beans and garlic bread. Again, I often will just make the pasta and the garlic bread. You can also freeze. So like, just if you're interested, show you real quick what I'll do with the rest of this garlic butter. I'll butter the rest of this baguette, and then I'll put it in the freezer uncooked. I'll put it on a plate and let it freeze solid first before I usually vacuum seal stuff just because I'm a nerd and it helps keep out freezer burn and it lasts longer. But if you're using just like a regular bag or whatever, like a freezer bag, just try to squeeze as much air out as possible. But if you have this and you already have your frozen shrimp, it's already ready. You just have to pop it in the oven and it'll take an extra couple minutes if you're cooking it from frozen. So I'll just pop these right in the freezer. I always think if today me can make life easier for future me, like that would be a great thing. So does anybody have any other questions? And if not, I hope you enjoy. I hope, Joanna, I hope you enjoyed today. Do you do all right keeping?
Yes, I think so. I'm just finishing it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're, like I said, if your pasta feels like it's missing something, it's usually either, if it needs a little extra pasta liquid, I mean, honestly, if you want to throw a little extra butter in there, like nobody's going to be, that would not be a bad thing if you like butter.
Right.
But thank you so much for cooking along. And I'll put a quick link in here to my event schedule for anybody who'd like it. If you do post on social media and you want to tag me, I'm at Big Flavors. I always love to see what you cook. And I hope to see you guys next time.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Chris.
Ashley,
Bye. Thank you. See you
Good
guys
night.
next time. Bye.
bye.
Mm.